everybody.
Hi.
Would you be where you are now if you had difficulties reading in school? Yes, no, do you think it would be a bit of an issue? Most people would probably say yes. If you didn't understand what you were reading, what you were learning, how could you get anywhere in life? That's what I wanted to talk to you about right now, is how the difficulties that kids have in school with their learning disabilities, specifically dyslexia. Dyslexia is more come to light within the last 40 years. Testing has improved, more diagnosis has happened. How do the schools incorporate that into their curriculum and teaching? First, you would need to know what dyslexia is to begin with. So, my notes. Dyslexia is not a learning problem, it's a disability. That's the proper way of labeling it. It is where children have difficulties viewing letters, sometimes even numbers, and understanding what those are. And if you don't know what the letters are or how to pronounce them, you're going to have problems when you're reading because you can't put the words together and properly pronounce them. C's can look like O's, D's can look like B's, so you can see where the difficulty would be on reading a sentence and actually understanding what it is that you're supposed to be reading and comprehending and being able to explain what it is. There's about 5 to 15% of Americans that actually have been diagnosed with being dyslexic. That's just being diagnosed. It's not including those that have not been diagnosed. And again, nobody really understanding what it was back in, 50 years ago. A lot of people were just labeled as, for lack of a better way to say, slow or stupid or a dunce or something like that. There hasn't been very much progress except for within the last 10 years or so in regards to having programs put into place that actually help the children who are diagnosed as being dyslexic get over that hurdle, to go over that speed bump, if you will, to be able to actually read and comprehend at their appropriate age level. This is something that has hit me personally in my life. My son has been diagnosed as being dyslexic, and noticed that there was some issues starting off in kindergarten, and it kind of progressed, and the school did put him in, give him an IEP, an individual education plan, which helped monitor where his progress was at, but in my opinion did not actually help him go past where he needed to be and get to his grade level. So it was about in third grade that he actually, I found a school that was specifically for dyslexia and enrolled him. It was like night and day. He blossomed. He loved going to school. He was thriving. He enjoyed reading books more than he ever has before. He actually wanted to read. The only thing with that is it is a private school. You have to pay out of pocket. There are some programs that are in place with most public schools systems that allow you to get a McKay scholarship, which is based off of the level of their disability and how much they will give you to go towards the private education. Private education, though, is, for me, it was over $17,000 a year. The McKay scholarship, because of the level that he was at, was only $5,000. It's a very difficult thing for many, many families who both parents have to work to just make everyday bills. And so it was a little difficult, but it was definitely well worth it. the teachers at that school specifically go to school and take certifications on how to help the children with dyslexia be able to read and remember what they need to do to get past where they're having issues. There are different kinds of things. There's visual. One that I thought was extremely interesting was a textile. It could be something just like a piece of paper or a board that might have a couple of ridges on it, and as they're going through and trying to pronounce the word, they're running their hand over. And it's more of putting a visual and an actual touch in regards to doing it. It slows them down to be able to think about it and to decode it mentally to remember what it is and help them read. Even to this day, when my son is doing schoolwork, he has a book in front of him, you can see him running his hands along the page as he's reading, not only to help keep place of where he's at, but also is just a learning tool that he had taught that he continues to do. And I noticed when he does do that, it's a lot more fluent, it's a lot more easier for him to understand, because he's also taking the time to think about it. And so the comprehension level then increases. This year, my son went back to public school. He is in 9th grade. And because a lot of schools, some of the private schools have only up until 8th grade. So you're kind of stuck in a situation of, what do you do after 8th grade when you're graduating from the private school? Put him back into public school. So he's back on his IEP, which I actually had one. It's actually my son's. No problem. He gave permission as well. Everybody can take a look at it. And how they kind of categorize and what they ask to have things done for the children. It's a little bit different because children with dyslexia definitely learn better in small groups because it's more one-on-one attention. Public schools, as you know, a lot of children, large classes, not enough time for teachers to sit and to give individual attention to each child that needs it. They have another teacher in the classroom to assist with the child that possibly needs some extra time or extra instruction, but the teacher is continuing to go. So the child kind of gets a little bit left behind a little bit. If they're struggling on one specific topic, the teacher's already on the next two. The schools don't have very much funding for this. They break it down to, for every dollar that a school gets, 80% of that goes towards the actual teaching, the students, the transportation. There's, I think it's 14 cents for every dollar goes towards the actual operating of the school. 4 cents on every dollar is actually spent on continuing the education of the teachers. That's a very low number for every dollar that the school gets that goes towards educating the teachers on being able to teach different things. So one way that a lot of parents don't realize that they can do is actually go to the school board meetings, participate in the school functions when they're asking for parents to volunteer. If you have a child that has a problem, a learning disability, get together with other parents, figure out something that you guys can do as a group to address the schools on reallocating money as much as possible to help teach the teachers how to properly teach the children. There are some other things that you can also think about is you yourself possibly even taking one of these certification classes so that when your child is at home and struggling with their homework, you're able to assist also. But the main thing is definitely be involved with the public schools, pay attention to when there are votings for who is going to be appointed for the superintendent, where the money is being for budget reasons. Definitely participate, know what's happening in your city. That's all I have.
Very good.
There you go. Okay, so are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever tried the Gardner Scholarship?
The which one?
She's like Cardi.
The Gardner? I have not. I know of, because the school counselor actually at my son's school told me about the McKay Scholarship. And that's the main one that they allow. And one thing I did forget to mention is the amount of money that they say that it takes to teach one student for every year is $12,500. And that actually does not change from a regular basic student, what they consider a basic student, and one that actually has a learning disability. It's the same amount.
Yeah.
How does
I think the Gardner.
Go ahead, Ash.
I think the Gardner offers more.
I would definitely have to look into that. I didn't see it in any of my research when I tried to do some, but I will definitely look at that, because this is my son's first year back at public, and it's a little different with having larger classes when he's used to only having 8 students, including himself. So it's been an adjustment this first semester.
That was my question. How is he doing?
It's an adjustment, definitely. He's getting better. We do the tutoring as well, and I do, very important, I may actually make him practice reading it out loud, not just mentally, but actually reading it out loud. Definitely makes a huge difference, and retention.
I have a question. I know you said that in regards to getting more actively involved with learning about dyslexia and everything like that, has it been something that's been brought up in, like, say, PTA meetings or?
It has. Actually, this past week, with his individual education plan, there was a meeting for the ESE. So they actually do have parents who are, children are part of it, meet with them, and they discuss what they're going to, what they can do, what needs to be changed, what they have thoughts on implicating in the future. So it's nice that they're trying to get us involved, because for a while we weren't. We would just get little notes home of progress, and then you meet like once at the end of every semester, and then we always hoped for the best at the end. And that's kind of where I got to putting my son into a private school, because it was at the end of the year, his 3rd grade year, and they told me that he wasn't where he needed to be after all throughout the school year, each semester telling me, he's making small progress and we'll wait and see. Wait and see is a very big thing that unfortunately they tend to say a lot. And then it gets to the end and, nope, sorry, not where he needs to be. So.
So if that's all the questions, we have 2 more things to do. So, does anybody have any critiques on what did the speaker do well?
I won't cry, I promise.
I think she presented the topic really well and kind of gave me some oversight of, like, some, I guess, funding towards, like, dyslexia, because I thought it just was with the school director. I guess when funding came from, I know about, like, scholarships, like McKay scholarships.
Stay on track. So
Yeah,
let me know what you were talking about.
I actually learned things, and yeah, it was very informative. You didn't,
Important to stay involved.
Very much.
Trip
Who
up.
is the superintendent?
No.
Yeah, very much.
All right, and then the last one is what does the speaker need to improve?
I can leave the room if everybody wants me to.
So the one thing I heard was you said a couple of times throughout, and then the other thing is I didn't hear any specific citations, and I missed them, but you already said that was going to be.
No, you didn't miss it. Unfortunately, that was a little bit more difficult to incorporate.
Yep, very well spoken.
All right.
Yes.
Good job. All right,
Thank
so
you very much, everybody.
turn that off. Yeah.